Hey everybody, how are you? It's Audrey. I am debuting a new little logo that I created, so I hope you like it. It's better than my old one. New year, time for a little change. Today I'm sharing a page that I did for Therm O Web, and I am using the Therm O Web DecoFoil hot melt adhesive sheets and some foil in a color called Opal, which is kind of like a swirly, shimmery, marshmallowy color. So I wanted to show that you do not have to have a laminator to use the DecoFoil. I took a piece of this hot melt adhesive and I just ironed it on with my regular household iron. And then I put the foil on top and ironed that on as well. Now, with the iron, you do not get as good of coverage as you do with the laminator. You can see there on my foil there's some spots that are kind of cut out a little bit. However, I don't mind that, and I was kind of going for that look with the little bit of white within my foil. So if you don't mind the kind of distressed look with this, you can totally use it with an iron in your home. You don't have to have a laminator. So that is a bonus. I actually used the piece of foil on my cardstock and I put it through my Cameo and I cut out the title that said winter, and I cut out some snowflakes, and I forgot to reset the depth of my blade, so the blade was too shallow, so I had to kind of really pick them out a little bit. I should have used a blade depth of about 7. I had it on a 5. And then I went through and punched some other snowflakes with some punches. So you can use this with a die cutting machine, you can use it with punches, you can just cut out shapes as well. So again, you do not have to have a laminator to use the Therm O Web DecoFoil or the hot melt adhesive. You can just use your regular iron. So for my page, I am doing a little kind of take on things that we do in the winter that are not outdoor things. I feel like we get cooped up a lot in the winter. We have a really bad winter here. It's cold. We get a ton of snow. I live in central New York State, and we get about 125 to 150 inches of snow every winter. And so we try to find things to do indoors as well. And it's funny, we do spend a lot of time, I feel like, doing things indoors in the winter, but in the summer we are outside constantly. And we don't ever really watch TV or do any of these other things in the summer. So I wanted to do a page dedicated to the things that we do in the winter that aren't necessarily in the snow and such. So I pulled out a piece of paper. This is from the Crepe Paper Snow and Cocoa collection, and it's kind of like a wood grain print, which I love. And I had arranged my photos there. I was kind of debating if I wanted them scattered or if I wanted them in a straight line, and I decided to go with a scattered look. So I added some gesso to the background because I wanted to make it kind of a little bit wintry and more whitish. And thank you to those of you who recommended the Delusions white ink, which I used here. I love it. I love it. It's exactly what I wanted. So thank you for the recommendation. I know some people left a recommendation in the video, and I was having trouble with some of my older or my other white mists not showing up. So yeah, this one definitely showed up. I don't know if it was because of the gesso on the background or this color of pattern paper, but it's just what I wanted. So I can't wait to try it on some darker colors. I also splattered some mist in Seafoam, Heidi Swap Seafoam, the color shine. This is the gold color shine, and then a Mr. Huey's, I think it's called like Honor Roll or Honor Society or something. It's a bluish color. So just a few splatters here and there. And this is how I'm going to arrange my photos, I guess. I really wasn't sure where I was going. This is kind of a very different layout style for me. It's, I kind of wasn't using any, not that there are rules in scrapbooking, but I usually follow kind of like a rule of thirds and a color balance type of thing. And I was just kind of experimenting here. So it was fun. I decided to break out some of my washi stash, and I have a whole bunch of different gold washies and, gold with colors. And there's some polka dots and some just stripes and other pieces of washi tape here. So just an assortment. And I'm going to put those underneath the photo because I have so many photos here and I was going to add journaling for each photo. I knew there wasn't going to be a lot of room to add embellishment and color. And also the photos are so small. I didn't want to take away from the photos with too much paper and such. So I am going to limit my color here to a very small amount. These photos, by the way, are about 1 inch wide by 1.5 inches tall. So they're kind of like postage stamps. And I love these little small photos. They were really fun to work with. Again, it wasn't necessarily the photo that was important to me in this. I mean, the photos, yes, they tell a little bit of the story, but it was the journaling that kind of went along with the photo. So something different, I guess. So I just went through the Snow and Cocoa collection and found some different pattern papers to put behind my photos. I'm kind of sticking with some of the lighter colors, the pinks and blues. And again, I don't want too much here because I didn't want to take away from my photos. So I'm using papers that have not a lot of contrast. They're not too busy with patterns, just to keep the color to the distraction rather too minimal, just to make my photos stand out more. I'm sorry if I sound a little sniffly. I have a little cold going on, so it's kind of hard to do these voiceovers when you have a stuffy nose, but I'm getting better, I think, so that's a positive. Okay, so I'm just going to fool around with these pattern papers a little bit more, and then I do go through, once I get those all on, and I'm just going to glue them all to their paper, and then distress the edges. So my original plan was, once I got these all glued, by the way, I'm using the Therm O Web mixed media liquid glue, which is awesome. It's a very quickly drying liquid adhesive. You only need a little bit, you do not need a lot, and I find it stays much better than a tape runner. Okay, so I wanted to add a place for journaling. I was originally going to use those labels that you saw at the top, but then I thought maybe I would make some circles with a white ink. The white ink wasn't showing up, so I tried 2 different white inks. They did not show up. Then I tried a white gelato. Nope, not showing up. So I thought, all right, let me break out some modeling paste. So I'm going to use some modeling paste and rub it through this circle. And the first one wasn't that thick. I actually do go back and add some more, but you can start seeing the circles here. And I wanted to provide a place where I could add some journaling. So I'm going to put a circle over each washi tape area, and I'm going to eventually put my photo kind of overlapping that circle a little bit, and then do my journaling in the circle. So I go through for each one. By the way, this is one of my favorite. I actually don't use this template very much for something like this, for using a modeling paste. I usually use it to make different size circles. You can see I have written in the template how big each circle is. So I use that template a lot when I'm cutting out circles. I'd rather do that than use my cutting machine. It's much faster and I just cut them out by hand. So I have this stamp from, I think it's called Impression Obsession or something like that, and it's just kind of a scribbly circle line, and I thought to help kind of ground my journaling a little bit and make those modeling paste circles stand out a little more, that I would add just this little stamped circle to my modeling paste circle. I wasn't sure how it was going to stamp on the modeling paste, but it actually worked pretty good. Even though the modeling paste covers a little uneven, it's not a smooth finish, but it still covered well. So I had to let them dry a little bit more because they were kind of still a little damp, and then once they dried, it was easy to stamp. Trying to really balance out the circles with the photos across the page to give the page balance. And you'll notice as I put these photos on that all of the photos have the circle to the right of the photo except the photo to the far left. So that drives me crazy. So I have to go back and I add some modeling paste back over that circle and then kind of move the circle over to a right, because it's only that one photo on the left there that has the circle to the left. So that was a little annoying. All right, so now time to add a few embellishments. So you can see my title down there in the bottom, with that opal DecoFoil that I made, which I love, and some of the snowflakes on there as well, which were punched and cut from that opal DecoFoil. And I went through the Snow and Cocoa sticker sheet, and I found these little kind of diamond-shaped stickers that had a little bit of color in them, so I just scattered them on the page. And I'm taking some of these puffy stickers here. The houses were kind of appropriate because, kind of some things we do at home. And I'm just going to spend some time going through these different embellishments. And I had to stick with really small embellishments because the photos were small. And again, I didn't want to add too much because I didn't want to take away from the photos. So many of the embellishments on this chipboard sheet were just way too big to put on the page because they just took away, like I said, from the photos. So just between the snowflakes and a couple of the smaller embellishments, this is pretty much all I do. So on this sticker sheet, there are 3 stickers that say December, January, and February, which I add on. So I kind of tried to match each sticker with one of the pictures that I knew happened during that month. Unfortunately, there was no March sticker on there. I know a lot of people don't associate March with winter, but here it is most definitely still winter in March. We have a lot of big snowfalls in March. So we are doing wintry type indoor things all the way through March. Then I decided to add a little phrase sticker to each of the other photos. So I just pull out these different phrase stickers from the Snow and Cocoa line, and I kind of find just some general sayings to add to each photo. And I have each little phrase sticker, again, sticking off the right of the photo, kind of overlapping each of the little scribble circles that I put in there. All right, so there's where I realize, I don't like that circle on the left. I've got to move that photo over and put a new circle on. So I kind of try to cover it up here with a little bit of the modeling paste. That works okay. I think in the final layout, you probably don't even see it. If you do, it's only a little bit, and you may not even know it's there unless you saw me cover it up like you're watching right now. So I went back and added that circle into the right of the photo instead. And I have to wait for it to dry and then add the stamping over it, and I can finish that one up. All right, in the meantime, while that's drying, I decided that to make my title stand out a little bit more, I was going to outline it. And I tested different markers because it is a kind of a shiny, slippery surface. I tested different markers to make sure that it didn't smear. And I just used a regular old Sharpie and with a fine point Sharpie, and I was able to outline the whole title, and it didn't smear one bit. So I like how that makes the title stand out a lot more, and I also like how the black outline of the title picks up the black outline of the scribbly circles as well. Just adding a little bit of glue to the back of each photo, and I'm going to glue those down. I do intend to stitch them down as well, so I didn't add a ton of glue. And again, if you're going to stitch over things, I do have a stitching video, and if you go back through my videos and basic stitching tips for your layouts, don't ever use a tape runner because it can clog up your needle and gum up your needle. So I always use a liquid glue and wait for it to dry and then stitch back over. And I'm just going to stitch along the bottom edge of each little photo. So before I stitch, I thought I would probably add my journaling, and I tested out a pen there and it didn't work well. So I went back to that Sharpie again. And again, I'm writing over this modeling paste, which at first the Sharpie was working fine. It was a little bit thick, like the point of the marker itself was a little bit thick. I wish it was a thinner tip. But as I kept journaling, I think it was picking up some of the modeling paste off of the page and kind of getting lighter and lighter, so I had to keep going off the page and scribbling on a piece of paper to make the ink flow better. So you can see the ones on the right are very dark, and then the ones on the left, the ink is coming out much lighter. So I had to kind of scribble, and I go back and forth and kind of shake the pen a little bit to get some more ink flowing down to the bottom there, and I have to go back over a few words, but it's fine. It works out just fine. So I'm just going to go through and add my snowflakes on with some foam adhesives. Again, all of the adhesives I'm using are from Therm O Web. So I have a liquid adhesive, which I use all the time. I use their 3D foam squares, which I'm using here on the snowflakes. And they also have Zots, which are glue dots in all kinds of different sizes, and 3D glue dots. So I just love using all these Therm O Web adhesives. All right, gonna pop dot off this. That's a little boring. I'm not gonna show you that whole thing. Okay, here I've stitched, and not only have I stitched across the bottom of each photo and the little embellishments, but I've also done like kind of a big back and forth lines of stitching on the very bottom there where I'm going to put my title. So if you look on the bottom of the page, I know it's moving kind of fast. You can see a whole bunch of stitching lines, and I just thought that added a little bit of interest for a place to kind of ground my title. And believe it or not, I'm actually using some old-fashioned brads, and these are brads with the prongs on the back. And I wanted to add them into kind of, because those little labels that say February, December, and January had little holes in them. And I thought, you know what? I'm actually going to use the brad. A real old brad. I haven't used a real brad in a real long time. So, yeah, it's fun when you get to use your old stash. So I'm going to put that title down, and that's popped off the page. I love how that opal looks, just that shimmer and the color in it. It's so, so pretty. This would also be good, I was thinking, because the opal pattern has kind of like this shimmery, swirly, like if you were going to do a picture about like blowing bubbles or something, these would make awesome bubbles, or like a summer page about swimming or something. So if you're going to do a summer page, the opal DecoFoil is awesome. So just a few more little bits. I just add a couple more snowflakes here and there, and that about wraps it up. So there is my finished page. I love this page because I love what it documents. And again, not a traditional page for me. Oh, look at that foil there. Isn't that cool? The pretty colors. I just love it. So lots of little details, a lot of layers and building up of this page. I titled it What We Do in Winter. And at the end of the title, by the way, if you look on the close-up, I did add the months, December, January, February, and March to get all those in. So thanks so much for stopping by, and we'll see you very soon with my next page. Have a good one, and stay scrappy.